And as I said, I was studying Ukraine, and all the champions that have come from your amazing country, but I've never been there. But at the same time, what's happening there is, I don't know what's happening, but it's not nice at the end of the day.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. My name is AJ. And the first video that you've seen is basically another AJ. He's a heavyweight boxer, Anthony Joshua. And I found it really, really interesting what he said. And he said that, he's been studying Ukraine and he doesn't know what's going on there. But you might have noticed he hasn't gone along with the rest of the brainless bunch by accusing Putin. He hasn't said anything about Putin attacking Ukraine. He hasn't said anything about Russia. He only says he doesn't understand what's going on there and he doesn't know what's happening. That's a very much a diplomatic way of saying things are not right and he doesn't support Ukraine. That's a very diplomatic way of saying things. If somebody in my workplace asked me what I think about what's happening in Ukraine, I would say the same thing. I just say, I don't know what's going on there, don't ask me. Because if you say the wrong thing in this world, you get cancelled. So he said it. He's a very intelligent guy. He said the right thing. And you know that he knows the truth. Anybody that knows the truth, that's what they say. Anybody who is a bit ill-informed or a bit stupid will start blaming Putin, will start blaming Russia, etc. So this is the fourth or fifth time I had to upload this video. It failed first few times and it's been failing all day yesterday because I mentioned some Police brutality in Arkansas. It's basically a clip of some Police beating up this poor guy. If they were beating up a black guy, I can guarantee you there would have been riots all over the United States, but because he was white, I just think it's really, really unfair, and the poor guy just got his ass beaten up. He was filmed by a girl filming it from a car, and I just found it, really, really sickening how these guys have been suspended only because they got caught. But what about hundreds of officers who are out there doing this kind of thing and not being filmed on camera? Whether they're doing it to a black person, to a white person, to a Chinese person, a lot of it goes unreported in the media and in the mainstream, and I just think it's fairly sad. Anyway, the main topic of this video is about journalists, and especially UK journalists who decided to go on strike. And these same journalists, funnily enough, were writing articles for other people not to go on strike, and they've been doing it for months, and the same journalists now are going on strike. It's absolutely ridiculous. The idiot of the day is journalists from the Daily Express, and you can see the title here from this Twitter article. The journalists at this newspaper are about to, and yes, I'm serious, go on strike. So the journalists of Daily Express, they were very, very vocal about other people not going on strike. So they were saying, oh, rail people, these people doing rail strikes, they shouldn't be striking. Anybody else that's striking, they shouldn't be striking. There's also lawyers striking in UK. There's postal office workers striking in UK. And these journalists were basically writing articles saying why they shouldn't strike, etc. It's really, really bad for the economy. And then guess what they do? They go on strike themselves. So it's absolutely hilarious. So all of the journalists from Daily Express and a few other papers are now going on strike because they don't make enough money. Apparently they need to be paid more. And because they're not being paid more, they're going to go on strike. So it just goes to show these journalists have no freedom whatsoever. They're basically told to write whatever the hell they're asked to write, whether it's, and everything has to fit with the narrative, whether it's about Russia, whether it's about China. The editor will basically tell them, write a crappy article about Russia, talk crap about Putin, talk crap about China, and that's your job. Go ahead and do it. But sir, they haven't, I want to be an independent journalist. I want to write the truth. You know, this is why I studied 4 years of my life doing a degree to be a journalist. So I want to kind of, you know, and the editor will be like, the hell with the truth. The hell with your degree. You know, you come here, you want to work for me, you write whatever I want you to write, otherwise you're fired. And these journalists, they earn really, really small amount of money. And this is why, you know, they are under control, because if you're a journalist and you're trying to make ends meet, you're earning a really small amount of money, and your editor tells you, write this or you're fired, then obviously you're going to write whatever crap you want to write just to save your job. You're not going to be writing stuff, you're not going to be a journalist and writing stuff, whatever you want to write, because if the editor doesn't like it, you're fired. So it just goes to show this is how they control journalists. They give them really, really crappy pays, and they probably ask them to write articles about other people not striking, but when it comes to their own backs, when it comes to their own situation, then they go on strike. So it just shows, you know, how much hypocritical double standards there are, especially in the journalist community. So you got this as well. So basically, I thought this was quite funny. So back then, when people were talking about the Brexit, they were saying cheaper food after EU exit. So this guy, Rees-Mogg, he says Brexit will reduce food and wine costs by 20%. Well, guess what? Everything's gone up by not 20%, but everything's probably gone up by 100%, because a lot of food items which, you know, were a certain price a year ago, now they're double. On some items are even triple. So food costs have gone up maybe 100%. And the scary thing is, this guy Rees-Mogg is going to be in Liz Truss's team. So she's gonna hire him as one of her part of a team when she becomes a prime minister. And when this happens, God save us. And I've seen her team, actually. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'll probably make a separate video about it. But her team, she's literally got these rejects, MP rejects, who have been absolutely useless in the whole parliamentary career so far. So she picks this really rotten bunch out of the bin bag or something, and they are absolutely useless. I'll go through them one by one, and I'll show you who she's picked later on. So talking about England and rubbish bags and sewage, this is a story. This is a story about this guy who took his daughter for a swim in a UK beach, and there was sewage all over. And you can see recently the MPs have voted on these water and sewage companies to dump sewage along the UK beaches. And I have to be honest with you guys, not once in my life, and I've been living in UK all my life, not once in my life I've ever swum in a UK beach. Not once. Because I remember when I was a kid and I saw sewage when I went to the beach, I think it was Brighton or Southend, I can't remember, and I saw sewage floating on the waters, and I just, from then on, I said, there is no way in hell I'm ever going to swim in a British beach. And British beaches have been disgusting for years. I don't know if any of you guys have travelled to UK beaches. You know, you go to a UK beach and it's disgusting. It's brown, it's got a funny colour, it stinks, it smells. And all of these people swimming in British beaches, I mean, they come out absolutely filthy. They have all sorts of disgusting stuff all over their bodies. And I just think, why the hell would you swim in a British beach? It's full of dirt, sewage, other things. And one of my friends said that at one point he went to swimming in a British beach. He came out with a condom on his head. I mean, that's absolutely disgusting. Seriously, guys, absolutely disgusting. British beaches are the most filthiest in the whole world. No wonder the British people love going to countries like Spain and Greece and, you know, party on the beaches there, because the British beaches are absolutely filthy, absolutely disgusting. So the water firms are getting a lot of criticism about dumping raw sewage all over the beaches. But guess what? Liz Truss basically is the one to blame. So she basically cut environmental agencies' funding when she was in power, and she also voted for these sewage companies to dump sewage along the beaches as well. So she has a lot to blame. Another issue is these water company executive bonuses have gone up by 21%, and it's found out that the average bonus for a water company executive now stands at £670,000, which is about $1 million if you look at the current exchange rates. So can you see the hypocrisy and the double standards? Here you have the water bosses making millions in their salary, and secondly, they're happy to dump all of these sewage around the UK rivers. You know, it's a real health hazard to the UK people, the environment, British beaches as general. It's absolutely disgusting how, you know, capitalism works in UK. It's not just water bosses, but you can see how BP and Shell are making billions in profits, and any hit to the gas prices, the British public are the ones to take the hit. You know, so they have to pay bills which are double, triple than what they paid last year, while in the same time, these British gas companies like BP and Shell, they're making huge record profits. I'm talking about record profits. They're making more profits this year than they did last year. It's absolutely hypocrisy at its finest. Absolute hypocrisy. So there's articles about 900 people dying due to the July heat wave, and probably a lot of people did die, to be honest. When England gets a heat wave, you know, it's absolutely disgusting. I went to work on the Central Line, and the Central Line is the worst line you can travel when there's a heat wave. There's no air conditioning, and you know, they say that the temperatures in the Central Line were way ahead compared to the safe temperatures when you will transport cattle. So when you transport cattle like cows and sheep and, you know, pigs and stuff, you know, they need to be at a certain temperature, otherwise you're breaking the law. So these Central Line trains, these carriages have temperatures almost twice the limit of what you would, you know, the legal limit of people traveling and or traveling animals basically. So twice the legal limit. So I was on the Central Line and I was dying. You know, literally I had to get off in the next stop and take a bus because there was no way I could continue in the Central Line. It was absolutely ridiculous. And the reason the Central Line is so hot is because Central Line was built in the 1800s, so it's hundreds of years old, and the heat is generated through electricity through the train tracks. So as the train moves through the train tracks, that's how the electricity is generated through the wheels and through the tracks, and it goes throughout the carriage as well. And because it's also a very, very busy line, a lot of people give out heat as well. So there's no air conditioning in that train. And the reason is there's no air conditioning is because these tunnels are very, very tight, very small. So they haven't got space to fit it outside the trains. They haven't got space to fit it inside the trains because the train is already really packed as it is. And these are very old trains, so using very old technology. This is why the heat just goes out of control. And the government's not doing anything about it, to be honest, and it's really disgusting to be on the Central Line. And Central Line is the worst line. If they want to do any improvements to that line, you can forget it, because Central Line goes via Central London, and any piece of work that you want to do to improve the Central Line, whether it's improving the tunnel or the tracks, you know, you're talking about billions, because you're going to have to dig tunnels and stop certain roads in central London, and if you do that, it's very, very expensive. So what they do is they just ignore it. They do not go ahead with any work in the Central Line whatsoever because it's so damn expensive. And as you know, Central Line goes via central London, where there's a lot of skyscrapers, where there's a lot of, you know, important, you know, banks and businesses. There is no way they will do it. No way. So So Russia is claiming that it's moving towards Nikolaev. So Nikolaev is a very important part of Ukraine, and it's the next part after Kherson. So they are moving towards the Nikolaev region, and after Nikolaev, the next biggest city after that is going to be Odessa. So it looks like they are moving towards Nikolaev. Then they're gonna, once they take Nikolaev, they're gonna move towards Odessa, and it seems like they have already started this way. There's still fighting going on in Donbass, but most of the Luhansk area, the fighting has kind of, it's still going on, but it's not as much as compared to Donetsk. But they have freed up a lot of troops, and they are moving towards Nikolaev. And Russia has decided to kind of move along Nikolaev and probably take Odessa as well, because as you know, Ukraine has been doing a lot of terrorist activity, I would say, or they have been using HIMARS, they have been blowing up stuff in Crimea. So Russia now has looked at all of the stuff that's happening last few days. For example, there's shelling going on in the nuclear power plant. There's shelling going on in Crimea. There's also shelling going on in Donbass as well. So they're gonna be moving westwards. They will take Nikolaev, they will take Odessa, and they will cut off Ukraine from the sea. So when they do that, that means that Ukraine cannot get any reinforcements coming through the sea. They're going to have to come through the Polish border. And if it comes from the Polish border, it's going to be a lot more difficult, because if Russia takes out all of the infrastructure from the border to the eastern region, then it's going to be very, very difficult to move military equipment from the Polish border towards the front line. So there is still the HIMARS issue, by the way, and this is why Russia is going to kind of push forward to taking up more land, because the more land they take, the more land they control, and the further back these HIMARS are going to be pushed back. So this is why I think Russia is going to focus on taking more land, taking Odessa, and Ukraine have got themselves to blame, to be honest. And Russia did say that they will escalate things if Crimea gets attacked, or if the nuclear power plant gets attacked. If the nuclear power plant gets attacked, then we're talking about a real escalation of the war. And everyone knows that Ukraine has been shelling the nuclear power plant, and Russia has been, and all the Western papers are saying Russia has been controlling the power plant since March. So if they're controlling it, why would they shell their own people? Why would they shell their own nuclear power plant? It just makes no sense. It only makes sense if Ukraine basically is shelling the nuclear power plant because they want to escalate things, because they know, somebody from Britain said that if there is a nuclear leak, for example, then NATO would be called in, and they want to escalate it. They are getting very, very desperate because they are losing the war. So they feel that if they can get a nuclear leak at some point, the whole world is going to stand up and, start attacking Russia. That's not going to happen, guys. I think Russia is going to make a lot of steps for this not to happen. For example, they're closing down the nuclear power plant, and they're taking away all of the uranium and all the kind of radioactive material out of that power plant. And they're going to do everything they can to keep it safe. But yeah, Ukraine is being very, very desperate. And because of that, Russia's now going to start moving towards Nikolaev, moving towards Odessa, and they will start pushing this Ukrainian army further and further back. I must say, things don't shock me much, but this particular incident really did shock me, because the fact that this poor woman has lost her life, and obviously I can accept that this bomb was meant for her father, but unfortunately she got killed instead. But what I can't accept is all of these Western papers, I'm talking about British papers, American papers, are saying that her father is basically Putin's brain. He manages Putin, he tells Putin what to do. utterly BS, guys. Utterly BS. You know, there's stories that this guy has never even met Putin in his life. And it's really sad to see all of these Western journalists with doing no research whatsoever. Now all of them are coming out with the same story, like he's Putin's brain, he deserves it. He should have died instead of his daughter. And none of them are condemning this attack. None of them are condemning it. You know, if you look at any British paper, US paper, none of them are saying, you know, the killing of Darya Dugina, you know, we condemn it. This kind of terrorism is not acceptable. None of them are saying that. All they are talking about is Putin's brain's daughter's died. You know, it's just utterly sick how all of these journalists work. And now all of these dumb British journalists who've been writing all this crap are now asking for a strike because they're not being paid high enough. Absolutely ridiculous. So Russia has released video of the suspected car bomber, and as you can see, it's a woman. So obviously I can't say much more than this at the moment, because obviously this woman has not been apprehended and they haven't really questioned her, so it could be wrong. So I can't really comment much on it so far, unless they find someone who actually has done it and try them in a court of law. I can't really say much, unfortunately. So the Ukrainians are still saying they should be confiscate Russian gas, and Kiev has got the right to siphon off supplies destined for the EU. And for them to carry on saying things like this, Russia, one of these days, Russia's gonna say it's enough is enough. You know, we're not going to be dealing with the Europeans. We're not going to be dealing with the Ukrainians anymore. So we're just going to switch off the gas. You know, it's too much headache to deal with. Let's just switch it off and let them freeze and let them sort it out themselves. And I wouldn't be surprised if Russia does that in the winter, because seriously, these Ukrainians who are stealing this Russian gas, which is meant for Europe, you know, Russia one of these days is just going to say, you know what, we've got pipelines going towards China, we have pipelines going towards India, we don't really need Europeans anymore, so let's just switch it off. It's just too much bother. And I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if it actually happens sooner than you think. So Germany is basically saying that Canadian LNG could be a major role in Germany's shift from Russian gas. So Germans, all the Germans leaders, Scholz, he's going around the world trying to find LNG suppliers. He went to Qatar and they said no. He went to Saudi Arabia, they said no. He's gone to Israel. Israel was trying to steal this gas from Lebanon, and so that's still, you know, there could be a war because of that. So every country this guy Scholz has gone to, they're saying no, and now he's relying on Canada. So let me tell you something about Canada. Canada is miles away from Germany. So imagine if they do come across with any LNG deals from Canada, you know, we're talking about huge prices for these LNG tankers to be traveling from Canada all the way to Germany. And it's going to cost them a bomb. You know, we're talking about huge gas prices at the moment, huge oil prices, and it's going to cost, transport costs alone is going to cost them a bomb. Then Germany has to build new LNG terminals as well, because they don't have enough. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built, and it's not going to be done within a year or two. This is going to take between 5 and 10 years. LNG tankers also need to be built as well. So for Scholz to think that Canadian LNG is a lifesaver for Germany, you know, he really does not know what he's talking about. And I just don't think this guy's going to stay in power much longer, because Germany needs power this winter. They don't need it in 5 or 10 years later. They need it now. So I just want to talk a little bit about China. For the last couple of weeks, I've been noticing a lot of people jumping on the Chinese bandwagon, saying that China's economy is about to collapse. And some of these channels are saying that China's only got 29 days before it collapses. And you can see this video has got 1.7 million views. 1.7 million views! I hardly get 5-10k or something, and that's nothing, and I speak the truth. But when you start talking bullshit, look how many views you get. I mean, life is not fair, guys. Come on, sort it out. I mean, just look at these channels. Economic collapse. China is about to collapse. The next crisis. China crash. Game over. The end. You can see all of these channels are basically saying Chinese economy is going to collapse, and I must say some other channels which I follow, I'm not going to say the names, but even they started jumping on the bandwagon, and I agree with 99% of the stuff they say, but I definitely do not agree that China is in recession or is going to collapse or it's got like 29 days. I mean, come on guys, use your common sense. I just want to show you something. So look at this. This article came out today. China waives interest-free loans for 17 African countries. So what China has said, they're going to waive these loans for African countries. And these loans come to 10 billion in US dollars. So let me tell you something. When you have a country which is close to being in an economic collapse, why would you waive interest-free loans to African countries? Right? It doesn't make any sense. If I was going bankrupt tomorrow and I've got last £10 in my pocket, am I going to go and give that £10 to charity? No, I'm going to use it. I'm going to basically buy food or buy something which I will use to survive. I'm not going to just start giving it away. So you can see, China is not going to collapse, guys. China is not having economic issues. Otherwise, why would they waive interest-free loans for 17 African countries? Makes no sense. Seriously, I mean, these people who talk about all of these economic crashes in China, they know nothing about China. They're just jumping on the bandwagon. One person starts creating these videos with 1.7 million views, and other people start following it and reading it, and they start making their own videos about it without even looking at Chinese economy, without even going to China. Seriously, this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Let's wait for 29 days and let's see if China collapses. I guarantee you that, things are not looking good for China because of the lockdowns, because of other issues. Yeah, I agree with you. There's also drought issues as well. But over the next few months, you will see their economies going back on track and start being back to normal again, because the lockdowns are way behind them now. They're not having any serious lockdowns anymore. They're making 101 billion trade surplus per month. Their foreign direct investment has gone up by 21% year on year, and China has got the highest in terms of foreign direct investment in the world right now. So everybody in the world is investing in China. If China was going to collapse, China was in some sort of recession, all that money would be going out of China. Doesn't make any sense, guys. Just think about it. Let's move on. So the Ukrainians have said that 9,000 troops killed in a war with Russia. I just have two words to say about this. Bullshit. Bullshit, guys. Bullshit. 9,000 troops is probably what Ukraine loses in maybe 2 weeks. They are losing they're losing on average 500 troops a day. And you just have to work out the maths. Just have to work it out. It just doesn't make sense, 9,000 troops killed. The actual number is more like 193. You can see the Ukrainian army's losses may exceed 193 service members since the beginning of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. That is more accurate, because they are losing between 500 and 1,000 soldiers a day. I'm not just talking about deaths, I'm talking about injuries as well, POWs. There's a lot of troops, and if you think about it, it's been going on for 6 months, and this is much more of an accurate number. So it's absolutely ridiculous. People that believe 9,000 Ukrainian troops have died are a bunch of idiots. And in fact, if you look at the same people are saying that Russia has lost 14 to 17,000 troops. So how can somebody explain, how can Russia lose more troops than Ukrainian troops? Can somebody explain to me that? When Russia is winning this war so far, Russia has got the air power. They've been missile bombing so many positions in Ukraine. They are taking more and more land every single day. So how is Russia's troops count losses more than Ukrainians? Doesn't make sense. Currently, Russian troop losses are probably 1/5 of how much Ukrainian troops are losing. So yeah, I mean, this is much more of an accurate number. Definitely not the other one. So we'll talk a bit about Chinese military, and China restarts mass production of Type 52D destroyers. So there's some pictures coming out of one of shipyards that they're building 5 of these Type 52 ships in one shipyard alone. And this is not their biggest shipyard, by the way. Their biggest shipyard is in Shanghai, and so these 052 ships are basically been built in Dalian port. There's a shipyard there, and most of the shipyards, especially the one in Shanghai, have recently had some expansions going on. So you can see China really accelerating their shipbuilding capacity, because they know this war with Taiwan might be coming sooner rather than later. So they are going to be fast-tracking everything they are doing. They're going to be fast-tracking these shipbuilding in China. They're going to be fast-tracking their aircrafts. And recently, their Chengdu J-20 has been released with 2-seater versions as well, so they're kind of parading that around. They have all of these new missiles that they are building using 3D printer technology, and they're doing it a lot. They are speeding it up. They are speeding up their nuclear deterrent force as well. So everything China is doing, they're speeding it up because they know that there could be a war around the corner. And I don't think America's doing the same thing, because right now, with all of these economic issues, and their military budget has literally gone through the roof, is almost close to $1 trillion, but most of that money goes to maintaining 800 or so bases around the world, maintaining the current military, giving money to Ukraine, giving money to kind of all of these people that are having ADHD issues and veteran issues, giving money to increasing pay rises for active members. So that money is pretty much disappears, and they waste so much money. They waste so much money, the US military. Not enough goes into production of new ships and new hardware. Most of it goes to kind of maintaining what they have, and it's just a lot of waste of money, to be honest, guys. So I saw this really nice article about what did Hungary do right when he received the biggest ever investment history from China. So those of you who don't know, CATL is one of the biggest battery makers, electric vehicles battery makers in China. And recently they said they will basically build a battery factory in Hungary, and they will invest 7.34 billion euros in Hungary, which is one of the biggest investments China has ever done to a country. And all of these European countries are now just sitting back and thinking, what the F? We needed that kind of money. Imagine any European country who kind of gets that kind of money from China. They would be laughing. Britain definitely would have been laughing, because Britain needs some sort of battery factory, because EVs are going to be the future, or they are already the future, and everybody knows to make EV batteries is very, very difficult, because you need all of the raw materials like lithium, sodium, cobalt, and all this stuff needs to be mined, and it's very bad for the environment when you mine them and stuff. So not every country will be able to mine these materials. So imagine if you have a battery factory in your country, and you don't have to worry about mining. All you have to worry about is making these batteries. Imagine the amount of orders you would get if you're in Europe. Hungary would be laughing, absolutely laughing with this kind of investment. CATL was supposed to build a battery factory in America, but because of the tensions with Taiwan, they actually pulled out. So Americans are now complaining. They're saying, "Oh, why did they pull out? It's not fair." Because CATL was supposed to provide batteries for Ford, for Tesla, and other major, American brands. But now that's not going to be happening anymore. Now these Ford and other major companies will have to, buy these batteries from China itself. And imagine, control that China would have over that. They can easily say no, or they will say, you've got to pay us X amount of money for that, otherwise you can get lost. EV cars are the future, and whoever kind of controls all this EV market, whether it's batteries, whether it's the infrastructure, materials to build EVs, they will be running the show over the next 10, 20 years. There is a huge green investment going on, not just renewables, but with EV cars. And China is at the forefront at the moment. They control 90% of the materials needed to create EV batteries. And, and you can look at Chinese cars, how cheap they are compared to Tesla. And they are, they are making crazy profit in China, and these cars are now being shipped to certain countries all over the world. They've been shipped to Norway, I believe. They've been shipped to Australia. I'm not sure if they've been shipped to America just yet. I think America's still kind of saying no to Chinese investments going into America. But there's a lot of these cars moving into Europe and the rest of the world, in Russia, Africa, Middle East. So you can see Chinese cars. Chinese never had a car industry last 20-30 years, but with these EV cars now, China is taking a huge leap, and they're taking a huge lead, and they are pretty much on par with some of these Tesla models, if not better, if you look at some of these Chinese cars that are coming out of the production line. But yeah, it's really good news for Hungary. So this article was saying that the reason Hungary won this investment is because they've been very a good friend for China. You can see the geographical location of the heart of Europe is a good support base, which is fine. But more critically, Hungary offers Chinese companies very good policies, very good business environment, not like Britain, where small investment by a Chinese company gets rejected in Britain. Like last week, a Chinese company wanted to kind of invest in a technology company in UK. It's a very small company, and we're talking about a couple of million. It wasn't even that expensive. And Britain said, no, it's security. This is security. Kick them out. Kick out the Chinese. They've done the same with Huawei and every other Chinese company that wanted to invest in UK. Pretty much kicked them all out. So it's not really a good business environment for Chinese companies. But Hungary has been very open and honest. And you can see Hungary, the first country in Europe to sign the Memorandum of Understanding in building the Belt and Road Initiative, has offered Chinese companies a lot of preferential policies for their investments. As a result, the number of Chinese companies investing in Hungary has continued to increase over the past 2 years. So Hungary is getting great benefits from China. And as you know, Chinese economy is very, it's going to be the number one economy over the next 10 years or so. Right now it's number 2, but PPP terms, they are well ahead at number 1 at the moment. But the overall, in the original GDP stats, they are still second, and it will take them another maybe 8 to 10 years to overtake America and be number 1 for years in hand, because China still has a huge population, and a lot of the population are still under poverty. Soon as they start moving into middle class, and these middle class obviously will have good jobs, they'll buy, they'll start putting money into the economy, they'll start paying taxes and stuff, and you can see Chinese GDP just shooting up way ahead of America. There is no way America will be able to catch up. So that's the thing with China. And there's more with this article as well. You can see the scale of investment has remained high. Bilateral trade between China and Hungary has been increasing by 34% year on year. So you can see a huge amount of trade increasing between Hungary and China. Not long ago, NIO, a Chinese electric vehicle maker, announced its first overseas factory in Hungary. And in June, Lenovo puts in operation its first European manufacturing facility in the country. And I mentioned here that CATL has postponed its plans to build a plant in North America. That's definitely not going to be happening. And looks like CATL will now focus on Hungary. And Hungary has been very good to China. They've not been slating China like the rest of Europe has, talking about all sorts of ridiculous, false accusations. They've not been going along with the United States in, pressurizing China and talking about internal politics, talking about, getting involved with Taiwan and things like that. So they've been pretty good, and China's been very, very happy working with the Hungarians. And you can see the amount of money and investments that Hungary is getting from this, and yeah, I think it's one of those win-win situations, win-win for Hungary and a win-win for China as well. And there will come a time when rest of Europe is really struggling to make ends meet, and they're really desperate for investment, they're really desperate for money, because the economy is really going down, the recession's really hitting them hard. Well, you will see countries like Hungary will probably avoid the recession. They'll probably avoid most of the issues that the rest of Europe is having. And good on them, good on them. So now we're coming to the second idiot of the day. And the second idiot of the day is the Finnish Prime Minister again. And this time she apologizes for a topless photo. So this topless photo is basically a couple of women that were basically, you can see, taking photos topless in her yard, or in her, basically where she lives. And obviously with all these partying videos and all these people partying in her house and yard, it's just one thing after another. And I'm not going to show you the full picture, but you kind of get the idea. It's just one thing after another. And she has basically apologized, and she says Finnish Prime Minister has apologized on Tuesday after a photograph surfaced showing two topless female social media influencers kissing at her official residence in Helsinki. So you can see this woman is an absolute party animal. That video that got surfaced a few days ago, somebody was saying that they are part of the Flower Gang. And as you know, when you say you are part of the Flower Gang, it usually means that you take a lot of coke. And this woman, even though she's taken a drug test, I've been doing some checks and I've done some research, and apparently if you take coke, it only stays in your blood for 2 weeks. So if you do a drugs test after 2 weeks, you'll be clean. So it's really not clear when that video was taken, but if that video was taken 2 weeks ago, most likely that test will come out negative anyway. If they did that video, if they did that test much sooner rather than later, then she probably would have failed the test, to be honest. And like I said, this woman has responsibilities, guys. Some of you might say, oh, she's young, she can party if she wants, it's her life. No, guys, no, not if you're Prime Minister of your country. What if Finland is in the middle of a war with Russia and she's partying away, taking drugs and, dancing, and she has her phone switched off, and, when you're Prime Minister, you need to be on call 24 hours a day. You need to be in a state of mind where if anything happens, you need to be there to lead the country. If you're drugged out of your head, or if you're drunk out of your head and you're partying with your mates and posting nude pictures online and nude pictures of your friends online, then what kind of PM are you? How are you going to lead a country when you're behaving like that? You know, do you see Putin behaving like that? Do you see President Xi behaving like that? You know, you need to lead as an example if you're a prime minister of a certain country. If you're going out partying, getting drunk and getting drugged up, is that somebody responsible? Is that somebody you would trust to lead your country? I don't think so. I wouldn't vote for anybody like that. Seriously, have a think, guys. Have a think. Anyway, that's all for now, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Don't forget you can join my Patreon or locals. Do what you can to help support the channel. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.